As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. Today, our very special guest is a returning visitor, Wayne Allyn Root, Vice Presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party in 2008, and author of such books as Murder of the Middle Class and The Power of Relentless. Wayne was one of our first guests when we met him in person at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium in Las Vegas, Nevada in 2014. He's back here to give us an update on the state of the middle class. And Wayne, thank you for coming back on Reluctant Preppers.
Hey, my pleasure, Dunnigan. I always like to make sure at the start of every interview that people know where they can find me. It is root4america.com. That's my website, Root, R-O-O-T, foramerica.com. You'll find all my opinions on video, because I think that's the way people like to do things nowadays. That's why newspapers are dying, and that's why TV is exploding, because people like to watch things on TV. And the Internet, they like to watch things on video. So I put all my opinions on video at root4america.com, and my most recent book is The Power of Relentless, which was a #1 rated business book in America in August, and is being printed and translated to Japanese right now. It'll be released in Japan next month. Very proud of that. So whether it's business or politics, I think you'll find you like my style, and you can find it all at root4america.com.
And when we spoke with you last, you were giving us a pretty dire outline of the facts surrounding the deterioration of the survival of the middle class. You were just a fountain as a keynote speaker at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium of facts and information, specific examples about how the middle class's plight had deteriorated under the Obama presidency with Obamacare, etc. But we'd like to have you circle back now 2 years later and give us a 2-year checkup on whether things have actually deteriorated further, or are there any signs of improvement on the survivability of the middle class. So if you could just take that as your starting point, and we'll see where this goes.
Well, listen, on every level, it's gotten worse. I mean, Obamacare has made it substantially worse. Back 2 years ago, Obamacare wasn't really even in effect. Back then, my health insurance wasn't $1,700 a month for my family of 6. My health insurance was $500 a month. Now it's $1,700 a month, and nothing is covered. That's the amazing thing here. It's not that they raised it from 5 to 17, which would be painful enough. Where does the average person get $1,200 extra per month? It's that when it was $500, every single doctor visit and every dental visit, every eye care visit, everything was covered. Today, nothing is covered. And every time I speak to another person who owns a small business like I do, they all say the same thing. Same thing has happened to them. The exact same thing. So you tell me, if your bill went from $500 to $17 and nothing's covered, that means you're spending about $1,000 a month on medical that you didn't used to spend on top of the $17. That means your bill went from $500 to $2,700. Where does the average person get $2,200 extra dollars a month? Remember, it's not even tax deductible. So $2,200 a month, it means you have to make about $4,000 extra every month, and that's what the average person makes in this country. Barack Obama has destroyed the middle class and small business. But here are some stats from just the last few months that I didn't have 2 years ago. These are brand new stats. First of all, we just officially got the news just a couple days ago that the GDP figure is in for 2015, and it was well below 3%, and that means 7 consecutive years of GDP under 3% under one president for the first time in the history of America. That means not even during the depths of the Great Depression, since they began measuring this statistic of gross domestic product, which is basically the American economy. Never have we had 7 consecutive years of GDP below 3%. So how does someone explain to me how someone rationalizes that? That we do not have the worst president in history who's destroying our country. You can't rationalize it. The labor force participation rate, lowest in modern history. 94 million Americans have given up looking for work. For the first time in history, more businesses close each day than open each day. More Americans now receive entitlement checks than work full-time. Here's a brand new one. Of the 1 million jobs gained by women in America in the last decade, 100% of those gains have gone to foreign-born women. That stat is directly from the Labor Department of the United States. Barack Obama's Labor Department, not me, not Wayne Root, not a conservative website. So every job in the entire country that was increased since the year 2007 for women has gone to a foreigner, meaning an illegal in most cases. In the past decade, America's lost 1.4 million high-wage manufacturing jobs and gained, how about this one, exactly 1.4 million low-wage bartender and waiter jobs. Isn't that amazing? That's the Obama economy. And finally, 1 month sums up exactly what's happening. In August of this past year, 2015, the economy lost 698,000 jobs in that 1 month, held by American-born workers, and gained 204,000 jobs by foreign-born workers. That's a pretty typical month, but I just got you a specific example of a month. So, that month shows you foreigners getting jobs, Americans losing jobs. An absolutely amazing thing. An absolutely amazing thing. So you tell me what that all tells you, Dunnigan.
Well, it sounds like, following in the theme of what you had talked about in your earlier report, the decay of people being able to provide well by having full-time employment for their family and also being taxed at ever higher rates and getting less health care coverage. You had talked then about the way to survive Obamacare was to keep yourself healthy so you didn't need to use the system because the system wasn't going to be there for you when you needed it. We've had some specific corroborating examples of that in our extended family that I can say that that's exactly the truth. People finding difficulty getting care and getting services when they need it with this new plan. In terms of people's ability to provide for their families and be able to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. One thing you just keyed in on was more people receiving government checks than full-time paychecks. Could you key in on that idea of dependency versus self-reliance in the new economy?
Well, I mean, this is the goal of the people in our government. And it may be Obama's goal, it may be a socialist cabal's goal, his partners, but it's also, and to some extent, I'm sad to say, the Republican establishment's goal. You could see it in their hatred for a different kind of candidate like Donald Trump, who's not establishment. They just hate him. They are so desperate to try and stop him, to defeat him at any cost. I would put nothing by them in their desperation in trying to stop Donald Trump. And the reason why is because they're on the gravy train. They want all of us dependent on government. And then when we're really dependent and we're on our knees begging for help and we live on government checks, we're going to be too, sad, too desperate, and too dependent to ever notice that they're stealing all of our money, and that's what government does every day. All these government officials with their massive salaries and their massive pensions and their free health care and their benefits and their 9 to 5 days while the rest of us work 16 hours a day to make half as much, they are ripping us off every single day, and the proof is the richest suburbs in the entire United States are all surrounding Washington, D.C. The rest of this country's gone downhill. Every state has terrible jobless numbers, terrible asset numbers, terrible income numbers, but who's got great numbers in every one of those categories? Washington, D.C. suburbs where all the government employees work. It's disastrous. This country's gone downhill so fast. We have 22 million state and federal government employees, and it is a sin. They're being paid too much, and when they retire at a much too young age, they get a pension for the rest of their lives. We are being ripped off every single day. It's pathetic. And I don't know what to say other than the fact that I hope that people wake up, because a middle-class person can't make a living anymore because the taxes are too high. The regulations prevent you from starting a business. There's no point even starting a business anymore, Dunnigan. I hate to report that to anyone, but you can't start a business. The regulations are just too difficult. So that you might as well not even try. So they're trapping you in low-pay corporate jobs for multinational corporations, because small business can't operate anymore and you can't start your own business. What does that leave you? You got to work for some gigantic soulless company that pays you garbage money. And that's what America's become. And that's why, I wrote The Murder of the Middle Class 2 years ago. It was a book ahead of its time. And it was written to point out that, this is a conspiracy between big government and big media and big corporations. And their goal is to just suck the very life out of us like vampires. And it's happening. Everywhere I look, it's happening. You can't afford the taxes. You can't afford the regulations. You can't afford the legal fees and all the lawyers and the frivolous lawsuits. And you can't afford the Obamacare. And you can't afford green energy and climate change. Another great way to destroy the middle class. Can you imagine how high your electric bill's gotten in the 7 years under Barack Obama with this obsession on green energy that's completely unaffordable? So, I'm a branding expert. From now on, We shouldn't call it green energy versus like fossil fuels or polluting energy. It should be affordable energy versus completely unaffordable energy. Green energy is bankruptcy energy. It means you're going to go broke. It doesn't matter if the sky is cleaner. It only matters you're going to go broke. You cannot afford to survive in a society that uses green energy. It doesn't work.
Now, another thing you mentioned about dependency is the more people that the government has the conflict of interest of increasing the numbers that are in dependency. We've seen, the borders being opened. We've seen all kinds of giveaway programs to people that did not follow the due process for becoming citizens, that sort of thing. But with more people receiving government checks than ever before, this all plays into the hand of, the hand that gives is above the hand that receives, so that it reinforces the power structure that keeps putting those on top to stay there. What we'd like to look at from the prepper's perspective is someone who has a real strong interest in actually taking responsibility, providing for their family, both now and in the event of unexpected events that might happen to cause upsets or chaos or natural disasters or whatever may come. So two aspects of that. One is, with this hordes of people who are so dependent on the central government for their sustenance, what does that do to the stability of a culture and a society when that spigot is turned off? And secondly, has the government been not only fostering and engendering of these dependent crowds, but also have they been actively hostile or just neutral to people who are trying to actually take care of their own family? So if you could take those one at a time, as what happens when the spout gets turned off from the central government to those hordes of dependent people, and secondly, the other one about how the government is treating people who really want to take responsibility for themselves.
Well, hostile is definitely the answer. We've created, this government has created a hostile work environment for anyone who wants to actually work a job or start a business. This government thinks that food stamps are economic recovery. That's what this government thinks. When Nancy Pelosi said it out loud, you'd think it was a comedy routine from Saturday Night Live, but she actually said, food stamps and disability checks are all part of the Obama economy, and they're good for you. And I think the only thing part of the economy is the private sector. I don't think we should even count a single government employee as part of the GDP, because when you pay a government employee, even a good one, like I like policemen, I like firemen, right? They're out to save us, they're out to help us theoretically. But when you pay a policeman or a fireman $100,000 a year, what are they producing? Zero. You're taking that money out of the taxpayer's wallet. So they're not producing anything that equals GDP. So what you need to do is subtract all the government employees and all the people who collect government checks, welfare and food stamps and disability and 1,000 other government programs. And what equals GDP should just be very simple. Private sector, people starting business, people creating business, people providing real jobs. You give me a job in the private sector, I've created 1,000 of them in my lifetime, and they don't cost the taxpayer a dime. But you create a government job, it not only costs taxpayers, you have to raise their taxes, but it costs them forever, for centuries to come, because that person will retire after 20 years on the job at the age of 45, and until they die at the age of 100, they'll collect 60 years of pension and health insurance free. So this is all on the taxpayer. So it's a sad situation. Government is making it so that they are the adversaries of the average person. What are some of my answers and solutions? It's getting worse every day, by the way. What are my answers and solutions? I mean, number one.
Well, before we let you go on, I want you to pin you down on that one question that's of interest to our viewers too, is people that are dependent on government income or government subsidies or government handout programs for their sustenance. What happens when there's an upset, when the debt can no longer be sustained, when that system can no longer happen? What do you foresee as the stability or instability of the culture, the economy, the society in the event that there's a disruption to that supply?
Well, you're going to see anarchy in the streets. You better have guns. You're going to see people killing people for food and for sustenance and for shelter. People are going to be starving in the streets when they can't get their welfare checks and when government employees can't get paid and when pensions aren't available anymore. And we're fast coming to that point, We're heading into, anyone who thinks that this is crazy talk or extreme talk, we're heading into an environment where you have negative interest rates on your money in the bank, and governments around the world are looking to eliminate cash. And you think I'm being extreme? The government is going to allow you to have a $100 bill anymore. I walk around with 10 of them in my wallet at all times, and yet they're going to tell me I can't have a $100 bill. So I should carry 100 tens in my wallet? No, they don't want you to have cash of any kind because they want to confiscate your money. And they know that the cash economy is taking money away from the government's taxes. So they're looking to confiscate cash. They're looking to ban $100 bills. And they're looking to charge you negative interest rates in your bank account, which is just unbelievable to fathom what's going on in the world today. So, and they're looking to just keep printing fake money to pay off the debt and hopefully print enough money to create inflation so that they pay off the debt down the line in inflated terms. So money's worth much less. So if you owe $1 trillion, it's like owing $100 million now because inflation is so bad. They want to create inflation. It's very clear what the end game is. But I think the end game is rioting in the streets. The end game is revolution. The end game is crisis, and the end game is anarchy. And it's going to be ugly.
And now that's where I interrupted you. You were on your way to saying what people can do about it on the individual level, people who are willing to take responsibility for their own family.
Solutions, yeah. Well, first of all, I keep coming back to vitamins and exercise and eating healthy and prayer and meditation because you've got to stay healthy. If you enter the healthcare system under this Obamacare system, you are screwed. And you can never recover physically or emotionally or financially. You'll never get out of debt. So you don't want to get sick. You don't want your kids getting sick. So you got to take good care of yourself, and you got to take a lot of vitamins. You got to stay healthy. So that's number one. It's being a healthy person and living a holistic, healthy lifestyle, which I do. Number two, you got to have guns. You've got to have guns. So isn't it funny that the most important thing is you got to have guns, and yet what does the government do every day? They try and take your guns away. It's the same kind of philosophy that says government constantly tells you that gambling is bad for you and we don't want to legalize gambling, and God forbid sports gambling should be legalized. But I think we forgot there's a lottery in almost every state in America. And if you check with gamblers who are smart like me, I've written 3 books on gambling. I'm an expert professional gambler in addition to everything else I do. The smartest thing you can ever do with your money is gamble it on sports where you have a chance to win. The dumbest thing you can ever do with your money is play the lottery. But government makes the smartest thing illegal and the dumbest thing legal. They want you to blow your money on lottery because where does the money go? To them. You're just dealing with such a corrupt society, it's hard to even believe. So, number one, you got to have guns to protect yourself. Number two, you got to eat healthy, exercise, and take vitamins so that you're healthy and you can fight all this. You're strong enough to fight it all, and you never get sick because you can't afford it. Number three, you got to invest in gold and silver. You have to. That's the only answer to all this. And, of course, in the last 2 months of the year, we're entering our 3rd month tomorrow, gold is up almost 20% for the year. 20% in 2 months. And I believe the sky is the limit for gold and silver. I really do, but gold in particular. When you realize throughout history, thousands of years, whenever you have empires crashing, like the Roman or Greek Empire and now the American Empire and the European Empire, and this empire will crash. When they crash, the one thing that holds its value is gold. The one thing that will save you is gold. History proves it again and again. So you've got to own gold. The debt is $19 trillion. It was like $16 trillion 2 years ago when I met you at that keynote address in Las Vegas. So now it's $19 trillion. The more debt there is, the more valuable gold is, the more gold will go up. So you've got to own gold. Debt all over the world is only getting worse. And just so you know, it's not me talking. The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, just announced 2 weeks ago that the $19 trillion in debt will be $30 trillion in 10 years. $30 trillion. Unfathomable, unimaginable, can never be paid back. Will weigh down all of our future generations and crush this country. You better own gold. And if you own enough gold, I believe you'll be able to buy entire blocks of real estate in Manhattan. Homeschooling. You don't let your kids anywhere near the education system. And that's why government is trying to make it so hard to homeschool. They're scared to death you'll have independent thinkers, individuals who believe in themselves and personal responsibility. They don't want that. They want you dependent on government. They want you to pledge your allegiance to government. You need to homeschool your children and have them pledge their allegiance to individuality, not to government. And it works. My daughter is 2 years out of graduating Harvard magna cum laude, and she was homeschooled her entire life. Harvard University, then Oxford University, now at the finest university in Germany, getting her master's degree in economics. You don't need teachers, and you don't need public schools. And then last but not least, here's a controversial one that maybe some of your listeners won't like, but I'll explain it. You got to vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the answer. Now, some people who are of like-minded libertarian conservative beliefs, they see it so differently. They can't believe Wayne Root is the biggest Donald Trump fan in the world. They think Donald Trump is a fascist. He's Mussolini. He's Hitler. He's this. He's that. He's an egomaniac. He wants to control us. He's a dictator. No. He's just a very strong-minded man who's going to blow up Washington, D.C. He's going to go there. I know him personally. I'm friends with him. I count him as a friend. I've spoken to him many times. I know what he stands for. I know his heart is in the right place. He's a brilliant businessman. He's going to save capitalism. He's going to go to Washington. He's going to put people in jail. He's going to break the gravy train. He's going to bankrupt the lawyers and the lobbyists, and that's why they're so desperate to stop him. That's why all you hear in the media is what a terrible person he is. Oh, my God, he must be a Nazi. He must be a KKK member. Oh, my God, he's not releasing his taxes because he must be a tax thief. And the list goes on and on. He's created fraudulent businesses. They're all lying and exaggerating because they're so desperate and so frightened to stop him because he's the one person that is going to break up the monopoly of all the evil people in charge, and he's going to throw people in prison who have ripped off the taxpayers. You have my word. That's why I'm fighting for him. Donald Trump, that's the answer to turn this thing around and to turn this economy around and to save capitalism, is a smart capitalist businessman who used to be a guy who bribed the politicians and understands how you bribe them, understands how the system works, and now he's going to use it against them. They're scared to death.
Well, I think we're going to have to leave it there. I know that you've already been more generous with your time than we had arranged originally, and just grateful to have you back, Wayne. You always bring just a scintillating energy of both facts and passion to what you do. We're just grateful to have you here, and we look forward to having you back again. Is there anything else before we let you go that you'd like to give our listeners?
I just want to make sure they know you can find all my videos on a regular basis, all my opinions in written commentary and video commentary at root4america.com. That's ROOT for America.com. And my book, my newest book, is The Power of Relentless. I hope you go out and get a copy. It's got a blueprint for how you can make some money in this terrible economy.
Well, thank you, Wayne, and we'd love to have you back another time on Reluctant Preppers.
Thank you, Donegan. Bye-bye.